Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was a collaborative bill that went through an extremely long, arduous, and challenging stakeholder process. The prodigy of this bill was Senate Bill 62, which arose out of a request by the sheriffs to engage in a discussion to help reduce jail populations because of COVID, the CDC guidelines, and the governor's order to reduce the number of people in the congregate care facilities, jails around the state. After that process had gone on for a while, a lot of the jails around the state adopted measures to keep people out of jail if it wasn't necessary or important to get them into jail, i.e. low-level offenses. And that process ultimately broke down, and Senate Bill 62 was PI'd. 273 is a different bill with a different approach, which contains some of the same thoughts, ideas, and concepts that were in 62. It's a different bill because it's a harm reduction bill. A significant number of people in Colorado are arrested and taken to jail on low-level offenses. 70% of people who are taken to local jails are brought to local jails on low-level offenses, meaning misdemeanors, petty offenses, municipal offenses. So this is a carefully designed measure aimed at keeping people accused of low-level offenses who are not a safety risk to anyone else, and ensuring that fewer people are incarcerated because of incarcerated pre-trial because of poverty. While this bill was pending, the George Floyd verdict was issued. Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder, and the significance was that George Floyd was arrested, subdued, and ultimately killed over a $20 bill counterfeit. In other words, a low-level offense. In Colorado, it would have been an F5. The fact that this gentleman was killed over a low-level property crime is an anathema to people in the community. It is inappropriate to arrest people, so let's give people summonses. That's the idea and theory behind this bill. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, on the day the Derek Chauvin verdict was issued, said, "The relationship between communities and the people who are sworn to protect them has to move from one that is mistrustful, suspicious, and in some cases terrifying, into one that is empathetic, compassionate, and affirmative. This is the work of our generation, to put an end to the vestiges of Jim Crow and the centuries of trauma, and to put an end to racism. The role of police," said the Attorney General, and its use of force has to be re-examined. If police go into an encounter with the idea of arrest and subdue and incarcerate, it's going to have a different outcome than if they go into this relationship with the concept of, I'm going to give them a ticket, the same way they would give you a ticket for a traffic violation. A couple of statistics, and I urge you to read the legislative declaration in the bill. Colorado is 6th in the nation in police killings, and the vast majority, 178 people killed by law enforcement in Colorado since 2017, and most of those arose from low-level encounters, misdemeanors, petty offenses, traffic, and municipal offenses. So that's what this bill is all about, to reduce and alter the relationship at the encounter and to reduce the number of people incarcerated pre-trial because of the adverse effects. So what this bill does is to require summons and tickets for all misdemeanors, all municipal offenses, all petty offenses, with significant exceptions. The exceptions include if an arrest is statutorily required, if it's a Victim Rights Act crime, if it's a DUI, if it involves a deadly weapon, if it involves sexual behavior, if it involves interference with school officials doing their duties. The police can also arrest if they are unable to identify the person, and officers can always arrest on a warrant for failure to appear. The next major section of the bill deals with bail and bonds, and they're designed, again, to encourage PR bonds rather than cash bonds, and reserve cash bonds for instances where there is a substantial risk of a person to flee, there's a threat to the safety of another person, and no other condition can mitigate that risk. Finally, there's a section in the bill that sets up a working group to study and evaluate community responses to low-level encounters, mental health encounters. There are groups of social workers and mental health workers who often respond under community response models, and they have had an extraordinary record of not having violent encounters. So for these kinds of low-level requests for service, this working group is going to study alternative community responses. And that's basically what the bill is about, and we would request your